Tonight, Melbourne hospitals scale up ICU capacity as two brave nurses issue a harrowing plea from the front line. Plus, the Premier's ultimatum to Novak Djokovic as a vaccine blitz begins in Melbourne southeast. Fresh fears over meat supplies with Victorian abattoirs facing COVID outbreaks. Police divers launch a desperate search for a missing man in Maribyrnong. How a squatter almost managed to evict a Melbourne couple from their own home. And $1 million prize revealed in the vaccine race to freedom.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor.
Good evening. Melbourne hospitals are scaling up their intensive care capacity, bracing for an October COVID surge. Victoria recorded more than 1,200 new cases today as two nurses revealed heartbreaking stories of young patients begging for the vaccine just moments before being placed on life support.
An army of ventilators awaits a call-up. This Dandenong warehouse tonight packed with 3,000 life-saving and last resort machines. 47 more COVID patients are in hospital tonight, total 476, being looked after by nurses like Jackie and Michelle.
One of the saddest things I've seen over the last few weeks is people wanting the vaccination just before we put them on a life support machine. That is the absolute truth. I've seen it myself. They're begging for the vaccination. New, powerful voices next to the Premier at the daily briefing. We have had people die in our ICU by themselves. Sorry, it's making me emotional. And we held their hands. We hold their hands while their families have to be at home. And that is absolutely not what this should be about.
Their message is clear. The vaccine works and the statistics match.
We've got 12 patients in hospital currently who are aged in their teens. None of those are fully vaccinated. We've got 22 patients in their 20s. Only one of them is fully vaccinated. We've got 64 patients in their 30s in hospital. Only one of them is fully vaccinated. And there are 60 patients in their 40s. None of them are fully vaccinated.
That's 158 COVID patients under 50. Just 2 are vaccinated. So many other Victorians are getting it done. 82.3% of adults have had one dose. 52.1% are fully vaccinated. And Melbourne officially takes over as the world's longest lockdown city at midnight, surpassing Buenos Aires.
The curfew should end. Health advice should all be made public. A date should be given to Victorians as to when this mess will end.
It will come off, as the roadmap indicates, once we hit 70% double dose.
Argentina's government has lifted almost all COVID restrictions. Just 147 daily cases in the capital. We hit 1,220. And 3 more Victorians are dead in their 50s, 70s and 80s. Our COVID peak still to come.
The biggest limiting factor is not machines, it's not tubes, it's not gowns and gloves and shields. It's people.
And those people are toughing it out.
Being in that epicentre, it's been hard. Many nurses don't know that this is what they want to do anymore. But we will get through.
The rest of Melbourne is doing what it can to get through. Walks along and picnics on the beach. A paddle off Elwood. And this, a busy Listerfield Lake, a popular spot on a nice day. Anything to make the longest lockdown livable.
There is pain, there is loss, there is, however, hope and a real optimism and a clarity. We are going to get past this. We're going to end this lockdown and open up.
Blake Johnson, Victoria's vaccine push gets another boost tomorrow.
Yeah, in a couple of ways, Mike. Firstly, the Royal Exhibition Building resumes as a mass vaccine hub. Operations were temporarily moved next door to the museum, so restoration work could be completed on the 141-year-old building. Also, the gap between Pfizer doses comes down from 6 weeks to 3, also from tomorrow, and that's really expected to push our 70-second dose.
OK, we're going to leave Blake there. Obviously, there's someone trying to interrupt him. The Premier has served up an ultimatum to tennis superstar Novak Djokovic. Get vaccinated or miss out on playing at January's Australian Open. The tough stance came as a vaccine blitz targets Melbourne's southeast.
No matter how big the star, no jab means no play, even for a 20-time Grand Slam champion.
Those titles won't protect you either. The only title that'll protect you is that you can be able to say you had your first dose and you've had your second dose.
Confirmation from the Premier that vaccine mandates may rule out Novak Djokovic from playing at the Australian Open. The world number one won't reveal his vaccination status, but has been a critic of mandatory jabs.
The notion of you getting in here without being vaccinated, I think, is very, very low.
The rollout was in sharp focus in the southeast today, community leaders encouraging locals as cases rise.
It's devastating really to see these numbers increasing. We are really worried for the community. We are really worried that people aren't protected.
The aim, to get Dandenong's first doses out of the 70s and into the 80s.
Our players and our people at work are vaccinated, so we hope everyone from the southeast can do that as well.
Now is not the time to debate whether to get vaccinated or not. Now is the time to find where to get vaccinated.
False messages on social media, don't let that influence you. Listen to the experts.
Don't act foolishly. The precaution here today is to follow the government regulation and advice and get vaccinated if you can.
A similar campaign worked in the city's north. In Hume, now over 80% first dose. That's more than doubled in the past month. And the youngest eligible Victorians have been fast with their first shot. 12 to 15-year-olds helping a surge over the past 3 weeks.
Almost half have now had their first dose already. I'm also pleased to confirm that over 70% of the over 50s are now fully vaccinated.
In Caulfield North, police patrolled a park filled with families amid plans by protesters to stage a musical picnic, but there were no signs of trouble. The spread of our newest vaccine, Moderna, widens tomorrow when more than 100,000 extra doses become available at 10 state-run hubs right across the city.
I'm pleased to confirm that over 50,000 Victorians have already had a first dose Moderna, either through community pharmacy or one of our state clinics.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
The state government has just overturned a controversial ban on public toilets at outdoor sporting venues, including golf courses and tennis courts. Toilets can remain open but must be cleaned twice a day, and people need to check in using a QR code. There are fresh concerns tonight over meat supplies in the lead up to Christmas, as some of Victoria's biggest abattoirs face Delta outbreaks. The industry wants an overhaul of isolation rules, demanding to be treated like supermarkets to prevent COVID closures.
Butchers at the Queen Vic market were well stocked today, but suppliers are on edge over COVID outbreaks at the state's abattoirs.
We've heard that because they're closing, our suppliers are going to raise their prices up.
We will have supply. Might be a little bit more expensive. The price might go up a little bit, but what can we do?
There are 9 cases at the Australian Lamb Company in Colac and at least 1 case at 5 other abattoirs between Geelong, Kyneton and Carrum Downs. Health authorities have praised meat producers for high vaccination rates and COVID compliance, but the industry says it's struggling with the 20% workforce cap in metropolitan Melbourne and wants assurances it won't be shut down.
If we actually send these people home, or in fact they lose their job, then they're lost to us and they're lost to the vaccination program, which inevitably is what we're all striving towards.
The meat industry says the entire supply chain should be treated like supermarkets, meaning only high-risk workers will need to quarantine for 14 days.
Coles and Woolies and others can remain open. That'd be fantastic. Unfortunately, the slowdown in meat production and meat product going to them will mean they won't have anything on the shelves to sell.
If we're not seeing that onward transmission the next couple of weeks, that'll give us greater confidence to then look at alternative ways of furloughing staff and simpler methods so they can manage their operations better.
There are concerns shutdowns will not only cause meat supply problems ahead of Christmas, but will also be a major blow for farmers who've battled drought, fire, flood and now COVID.
We've got to make sure that these settings are right from gate to plate.
Tracy Macbeth, 7 News.
Victoria's COVID outbreak is seeding into other parts of the country. A 15-year-old has tested positive in Tasmania, becoming the state's first case in 58 days. He flew into Launceston from Melbourne. A second Victorian has also tested positive in South Australia. The mother of 4 travelled from Casterton. The other positive case arrived from Melbourne on Jetstar flight JQ778 on Friday. Australians could start getting COVID booster shots before Christmas. The federal government has revealed planning is already well underway. But some doctors argue it's too early to be talking about a third jab.
Israel was the first country in the world to offer booster shots. Since July, more than 3 million Israelis have had a third dose, including the Prime Minister.
It's working, it's safe, and it's the way to defeat this virus.
Europe and the US have also launched booster programs, and planning is well underway here too. An announcement expected within weeks.
These booster shots are very effective at boosting the immune level and hopefully then reducing the ability to transmit it.
Those with compromised immune systems will be prioritised, possibly given a third jab before Christmas. But the government's expert immunisation panel wants more information before considering a wider strategy. Specifically, when to offer booster shots to cover future COVID peaks. And with more vaccines coming onto the market, which one would work best as a top-up jab? But with many Australians still not fully vaccinated, it's possible some may be getting a third dose before others get their second.
We haven't got high enough levels of fully vaccinated people in our population yet to be talking about boosters for everyone.
Nationally, only 56% of over 16s are double dosed. New South Wales leading the charge at 67%, Victoria 52%, South Australia 51%, Queensland and WA lagging behind on 48%.
Key focus now has to be vaccinating everybody else.
When Australia does offer a third jab, the government says supply won't be an issue. Rob Scott, 7 News.
Police divers have stepped up their search to find a missing Sunshine North man who was last seen around 7 o'clock last night. It's believed the 65-year-old may have gone to the Maribyrnong River near Jack Magazine Reserve to go fishing. A couple from Melbourne's east have told how a squatter almost forced them out of their own home. The Space Invader sold off possessions, changed the locks and left a hefty damage bill.
It has a luxury price tag, but this multi-million-dollar property has turned into a dumping ground. Every corner littered with filth, a damaged bedroom and bathroom. The result of a squatter who took over a 4-bedroom home on Toorak Road.
The squatter actually changed the locks and the remote controls to the garage, and he drove his Mercedes into the place. And he's just taken advantage of a situation.
He even put a notice on the door claiming legal rights to the property. The homeowners are trapped overseas because of the pandemic, left feeling very shocked and helpless, saying the thought that someone could stay in their house without their permission seems completely ridiculous. But evicting the Space Invader proved far from a game.
We applied to the Supreme Court of Victoria for a court order evicting the squatter.
They came in SWAT gear, the coppers, and then the next day, I think it was, that's when the police came and I could see them serving papers. It was like the movies, you know, like who needs a TV when you got my balcony?
The 48-year-old man was arrested.
If there was no sale of chattels and furniture and no damage to the property, this fellow would have got off scot-free. But because of the extensive damage and also liquidated some of our clients' assets, there's a real prospect he'll be charged with some sort of offence.
In Victoria, adverse possession laws mean someone who occupies a property for 15 years and improves it can claim ownership.
It's a lesson for everyone out there. If you've got any vacant properties, make sure that you appoint someone to go and inspect your properties.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Tens of thousands of Sydney-siders have signed a petition calling for Gladys Berejiklian to remain New South Wales Premier. But the Liberal Party looks to have already settled on her replacement.
Silence from the outgoing Premier as Gladys Berejiklian's likely replacement emerged.
I've had the opportunity to discuss with my wife Helen, my family and my colleagues my intention to nominate today as the Liberal leader.
Endorsements don't come much higher.
I think overall Dominic Perrottet would be the right person.
Today, more tributes left outside Ms Berejiklian's home after her shock exit. following a corruption probe into a secret affair with former MP Daryl Maguire. Support via an online petition is soaring, with more than 50,000 calling for Gladys to remain Premier. Blazers out for Gladys also trending on social media. There was a new look too at the state's daily COVID press call, as cases in New South Wales dipped below 700.
The Premier has worked tirelessly since the pandemic commenced through this most difficult time. And I think her clear commitment to the community is so evident.
The shake-up continues in New South Wales. Transport Minister Andrew Constance quitting for a tilt at federal politics. A government in the grip of a pandemic now facing a by-election headache. Ashley Kanowski, 7 News.
The Queen has spoken publicly about Prince Philip for the first time since his death during a touching speech at the opening of Scottish Parliament. Her Majesty also had a powerful message for politicians across the globe.
Arriving to cheers and bagpipes. A fitting welcome to Scottish Parliament. The Queen has been at every opening since its establishment in 1999, but this one was different.
This is the first time you have opened our Parliament without the Duke of Edinburgh by your side.
Instead, accompanied by Prince Charles and Camilla, Her Majesty not missing a beat.
I have spoken before of my deep and abiding affection for this wonderful country, and of the many happy memories Prince Philip and I always held of our time here.
The 95-year-old spent her traditional summer break in Scotland and will be back within weeks.
Next month, I will be attending COP26 events in Glasgow as leaders come together to address the challenges of climate change.
More than 100 world leaders are attending the crucial talks in person. Despite pressure on Australia to announce more ambitious carbon emissions targets, Scott Morrison has said he's unlikely to go.
There is a key role for the Scottish Parliament, as with all parliaments, to help create a better, healthier future for us all.
In London, Sarah Greenhalgh, 7 News.
Andrew McCormack is here for a look ahead to sport, and Macca, some footy stars will find new homes starting tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right, Mike. The seeds of a premiership side can be sown in the next 10 days. We'll break down all the key players to look out for ahead of the trade period. Also, the bizarre time to shine for Richmond. Find out who the Tigers have their eye on for the next premiership assault. Also, a defiant Elise Perry staves off disaster for Australia, but is there one last twist in the tail on the Gold Coast? How Manchester United's gamble backfired with Cristiano Ronaldo benched. And Mike, speaking of Elise Perry, this is quite remarkable. It's been revealed one footy club made a bold pitch to try and lure her into the AFLW. We'll have more on that shortly.
OK, look forward to it. Thanks, Macca. There's a new vaccine push that could make you an instant millionaire. Up next, how to cash in by simply rolling up your sleeve. Plus the bold idea being floated to help transform Docklands. A death-defying plane crash on a busy highway. The crucial message for women after a rise in breast cancer cases. And later, tips for parents dealing with fussy eaters. And we meet the crack new members of Victoria's Bomb Squad. 2 special reporters. Melbourne motorists are being warned 40km/h speed zones near schools will be enforced from tomorrow. Term 4 officially begins in the morning with new speed limits in place from 8 a.m. Students are beginning a phased return to classrooms, so motorists are being urged to be patient and expect an increase in traffic. A bar on a barge at Victoria Harbour could be the key to keeping business in the Docklands afloat. Plans for the 2-storey venue, which could host up to 750 people, have been submitted to the City of Melbourne. The space would also include a dining area and stage. The proposal also includes plans for a drop-off and pick-up area. $1 million is up for grabs in a new vaccine incentive scheme launched across the country. Donors behind the giveaway are hoping the cash prize will help convince someone still reluctant to get the shot.
In the race to 80%, there's now $1 million prize.
Would $1 million potentially convince you to get the jab?
Yeah, definitely. Australia's $1 million vax following the success of lotteries overseas.
Abigail Buginski is a millionaire just for getting vaccinated.
It's not about convincing people to get vaccinated, but rather rewarding those who decide to get vaccinated
during the month of October, and for those who have already been vaccinated.
Prospective millionaires can enter online at milliondollarvax.com. Winners will have to prove they're fully vaxxed.
We've actually asked for minimal details when you enter the competition, and those details are not available for any kind of commercial promotion.
In Ohio, the competition boosted vaccine take-up rates and saved $60 million in healthcare costs.
A Central Ohio man is the winner of one of tonight's Vax-A-Million prizes.
The prominent philanthropists and big businesses behind Australia's campaign keen to see the country open back up.
This seemed to be a good way to just encourage people to take that step. If they're thinking about it, now's the time.
I'm not so fussed at what motivates you, whether it's for your health, the health of the people that you love, to protect our health system and value the work of our nurses, or to win $1 million. I'm not fussed. Just go and get vaccinated. 100
$1,000 gift cards will be given away daily before the ultimate prize winner is announced on November 5. Estelle Griepink, 7 News.
A last-minute shortcut has ended in a spectacular crash. The light plane was spotted flying low down a Texas highway before crashing onto the road. Police say moments earlier it was part of a float in a local parade. Instead of towing it home, someone thought it might be quicker to just fly it there instead. The pilot escaped without serious injury. Thousands of breast cancer cases are likely going undiagnosed because of crucial delays in lockdown. New data shows the number of screening appointments has plummeted.
When Ebony Mihailek found a lump in her breast, she immediately called her doctor. It wasn't long before she was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Within 2 hours, the doctor surgery had rung me saying, come in. It was a stage 3, so it had spread to my lymph nodes.
The mum of 2 is now in remission, but holds concerns for other men and women who may not know they have the disease. Research from the National Breast Cancer Foundation shows breast screening appointments dropped by 98% in 2020. There are now fears up to 3,000 cancer diagnoses have been delayed due to the pandemic.
That's really frightening to hear, because outcomes will be worse for people.
We've seen a significant reduction in the number of breast screening appointments, but even more worrying, a reduction in the number of breast cancer-related surgeries. That could mean that we could see an increase in the number of more advanced cancers in the years to come.
The foundation says surgical delays of just 12 weeks can result in 500 more breast cancer deaths per year. When breast cancer is detected early, the 5-year survival rate is 100%. It's why it's so important to get checked as soon as possible.
If you've got any concerns at all, go and get checked. You don't want to leave it too late.
Estelle Griepink, 7 News.
Melina Saris joins us now in Melbourne. We've had a brief break from the wet weather.
We did, Mike. The first half of today was lovely, but the showers have returned. We started the day with warm sunshine, but those clouds began rolling in and we have had widespread light showers over the west, moving over our central and eastern districts this afternoon, reaching the metropolitan areas tonight. So far, a couple of millimetres has fallen over the suburbs. We will have some brief pockets of sunshine mixed with wave after wave of wet weather in the next few days. I'll have all of those details soon, Mike.
It was a nice morning though. Thanks, Mel. The return of outdoor dining is just weeks away. Up next, live details on the plan to help get Melbourne back on track. Plus, Donald Trump rolls up his sleeves for a new legal fight. The coast of Gallipoli like you've never seen it before. And meet the new members of Victoria's Bomb Squad. 7 News exclusive. The City of Melbourne is set to spend up big on outdoor dining as we prepare to come out of lockdown. Paul Dowsley is at De Graves Street tonight. And Paul, the council wants to turn business inside out.
And it all hinges on a council meeting on Tuesday, Mike. They're trying to think of ways to help businesses bounce back after this COVID hibernation. Among the proposals is to wipe permit fees for outdoor dining and busking until the end of March. It's in place now, but we're set to expire in a few weeks. And if it continues, it would help about 1,000 businesses. Plus, the Lord Mayor, Sally Capp, she wants to spend about $1.1 million on outdoor dining infrastructure that would be given to businesses, no strings attached. And they want to make some popular laneways off limits to vehicles.
So we will be closing more laneways for outdoor trading. It's been a really big feature from hospitality businesses in particular that may not have enough space directly outside their business but could serve customers in nearby laneways.
Last time, those laneway closures were only happening Friday and Saturday nights. This time, venue owners and other traders are hoping that it will be extended, Mike, to also include Thursday and Wednesday nights as well.
OK, Paul Dowsley, thank you. A new video campaign is urging us to consider lessons from the pandemic after a period of unprecedented strain on our mental health. As we prepare to emerge from lockdown, specialists say tools and strategies are key to our well-being.
3 faces and 3 very different stories, united in a message to share on the path out of lockdown. The new campaign from platform Next Door aims to cultivate kindness from a time we've needed it most.
It's reminded us of the need to respond to other people who are in trouble.
Candid reflections on the importance of connection.
And when that opportunity is there and we can sit around and have a drink around, a barbecue, we connect.
A lot of people have decided it's been a great time to connect with a psychologist.
And it's this contact with others that not only improves our mental but physical health. The key is to keep consistent habits in place.
Someone has to start that ball rolling, and it's really important to take the initiative. That daily mindfulness to what am I going to do to look after myself today, exercise, diet, social activity.
Latest research shows 70% of Australians say building new relationships and connecting with neighbours is now more important than before the pandemic. And it's this sense of belonging experts believe can help lift feelings of depression and anxiety.
The positive impact that connection has on your mental health and well-being, and that's really the silver lining out of this pandemic.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
Tens of thousands have marched for abortion rights across the United States. They're targeting the Supreme Court, which in coming months will hear a motion to overturn a landmark case which legalised abortion nationwide in 1973.
This moment is dark. It is dark, but that is why we are here. Movements exist because of darkness, and it is our job to imagine the light even when we can't see it.
Texas recently passed the country's most extreme abortion restrictions, banning the procedure beyond 6 weeks of pregnancy. Donald Trump is heading to the courts in a desperate bid to get himself back on Twitter. The former president's filed a lawsuit in Florida, arguing the platform allows the Taliban to regularly tweet, but not him. Trump was banned in January after riots at the Capitol building. He's already sued Twitter, Facebook and Google, alleging their bans are unlawful and violate the First Amendment right to free speech. Russia's held its first royal wedding in more than a century. Grand Duke George Mikhailovich Romanov married his Italian bride Victoria. The Romanovs first came to power in the 1600s and were banished after the Russian Revolution. We know the story of what happened on land in Gallipoli, and tonight, for the first time, we've been given an opportunity to see a battleground underwater. The wrecks of a dozen World War I ships have opened to the public, with tourism operators hoping Australians will soon be able to visit.
An underwater graveyard littered with relics from the Great War. An immersion in history, diving through a battleground.
And it is very, very rare to see so many shipwrecks at one site.
In March 1915, the Allies launched an ill-fated naval attack in the Dardanelles, hoping to take control of the strategically important strait, but Turkish forces had mined it. The Gallipoli campaign on land followed. For 106 years, the shipwrecks, French, British and Australian, have been off-limits to the public.
Every year, visitors from Australia and New Zealand come to our country for Anzac commemorations. I would like them to see this dive to show what happened at sea as well as on the ground.
The remains of 12 ships are now open to divers of all levels. The first site is British battleship HMS Majestic, torpedoed by a German submarine, killing 49 sailors.
I felt the stress they were having, the panic and the tragedy they were having during that time. and I put myself into their shoes. You feel why war is so bad.
An experience they're so keen to share. We miss Australians here, says the director of the park. When the pandemic restrictions lift, we hope this will be their first destination. Georgia Holland, 7 News.
Victoria Police's bomb squad is welcoming 2 new key members to the team. In an Australian first, bomb technicians, not dog handlers, have been given the task of training and looking after the canine recruits.
Bronx and Bomber reporting for duty, the newest members of the bomb squad.
Find it.
They work alongside their bomb technician handlers to sniff out explosive material.
Persons of interest can hide stuff. You're not going to keep it away from Bomber or Bronx.
The 2-year-old canines joined the force in April and were initially trained by a former Special Forces dog handler as Black Roll Canine.
We've probably looked at about 30 different dogs to get those prey drive characteristics we're looking for in detected dogs.
From clearing cars to sweeping an airport, Bomber and Bronx have also discovered robots are their crime-fighting friend.
Usually we might have been there with our robots trying to get some type of indication about what was in that vehicle, and it may have taken 1 to 2 hours extra.
VicPol is the first Australian police force to have bomb technicians double up as dog handlers.
It's such like a Boston bombing type situation that the dogs, once they indicate, we've already got bomb technicians there that may be able to assess rapidly and to render it safe rapidly so that we can actually move on and open up whether it be the Melbourne CBD or shopping centres.
A majority of Victoria Police's canines are German Shepherds, but Bomber and Bronx are Belgian Malinois. So they're a little bit smaller and more agile, and they have a super strong work ethic.
A bombing's going on or an active shooter, we want to get that dog to be able to go where no other dog will go, and the agility of a Belgian Malinois gives us that flexibility.
Fearless and fluffy, they still enjoy playing like regular dogs, while making Victoria safer. Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
Up next, a Gold Logie winner reveals just how close he came to dying in a road tragedy. Plus, thousands of Afghan refugees welcomed with open arms in Melbourne. New tips to help parents with fussy eaters at the dinner table. And COVID claims another big Melbourne sporting scalp. Gold Logie winner Samuel Johnson has revealed he nearly died when he was hit by a car in June. The 43-year-old fractured his skull and was placed in an induced coma. Johnson has no memories of the accident and says he still has a long road to recovery. Thousands of refugees are settling into their new homes in Melbourne after fleeing Afghanistan. Big-hearted locals have swung into action, welcoming the arrivals and sourcing everything they need to start their new lives.
The overwhelming feeling of freedom. Ahmed Soliman Kale and his baby brother Mohammed are among our newest little Melburnians, and they're savouring the simple joys of our city. The brothers were born and raised in war-torn Afghanistan. Ahmed still plagued by terrifying memories of the Taliban. The boys are now safe and adjusting to a new life in the suburbs with their parents and uncles.
Yeah, we are so happy that we come from Afghanistan. We leave the war and we escape from the war and come to Australia.
After the Taliban seized power in August, more than 4,000 refugees made it to Australia in a terrifying rescue mission. Like so many, this family had no choice but to flee.
Maybe they
kill us because at the moment a lot of innocent people killed in Afghanistan. Maybe if we are in Afghanistan, maybe we are one of them.
Hashmatullah's brother had worked with Australian forces in Kabul. The Taliban's warning was brutal. They bashed teenager Mudassir with a gun and vowed revenge. Finally safe, the family is relying on guardian angels like Gula Bezan to help them start again.
Like pressure cooker. All Afghan people got pressure cooker, an Afghan blanket, some stuff like that.
Gula arrived in Melbourne from Afghanistan 20 years ago and knows there are hundreds more refugees who will soon need support.
Hello.
Minister Wood,
We're glad we could help out.
We can't.
Thank you for you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
The Australian government arranged Amada Queer and Hamida Miskinmal's escape from Kabul aboard a rescue flight to Brisbane, where they're now in quarantine, soon to be reunited with their son Shahab after 10 years.
Very, very happy. Very happy.
There's a lot of people at the moment in quarantine across the country, so through that evacuation phase, they're starting to drift in. And when you hear their stories, it's just life or death.
It could take years for many refugees to recover from the trauma. The Victorian government announcing $1 million to fund counselling.
Left behind all families, friends, career, job, everything behind and come to new country. I think it takes time to adopt this culture and this country.
2 little boys at least should remember no other life than this. Peter Mitchell, 7 News.
Conquering meals is a growing challenge for families with fussy eaters. Now food experts are sharing tips on how to get kids to clear their plates at mealtime.
Feeding fussy kids can be a perplexing puzzle.
Come on. No.
Alyssa and Rob's 3 children all have different wants and needs, but they're slowly figuring it out.
The easiest things for me has been using the meal kits.
A new survey from HelloFresh revealing parents are struggling to find different and nutritious meals children will enjoy, with 81% dealing with kids who refuse dinner.
We know from research that it takes 7 to 10 attempts to introduce new foods to children at a minimum.
But parents are trying to tame picky kids. 54% say they've sneaked vegetables into dinner. 49% have threatened privileges, like taking away the iPad, while more than half have tried a bribe at mealtimes.
Incentives sneak in every so often.
The risk is that bribing children can actually reinforce the behaviour. A much more positive option is to give kids a small variety of foods.
Bribing and incentivising can also be a strain on the weekly shopping budget, with some parents spending an extra $4,000 a year just to feed their fussy kids. Experts say the recipe for success is actually rather simple.
The less you talk about food at home, particularly with small children, the better, because the more you focus on it, the more the problem's likely to continue.
Tom Saker, 7 News.
The exclusive birdcage at the Melbourne Cup Carnival is the latest COVID casualty in Victoria. Organisers hope to reimagine the space, planning up to 5 separate areas to allow for social distancing if crowds are allowed at Flemington. The VRC has submitted plans for up to 11,500 people to attend the Melbourne Cup. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Andrew McCormack is back with sport, and Mac, a vested interest here, but how are the Tigers going to tackle the trade period?
Yeah, well, Mike, they've got a very well placed. We'll bring you the live details next and speak with Richmond's recruiting guru to find out just who he's got his eye on. Plus, Elise Perry stars on the Gold Coast as the Aussies go all out in search of victory against India. The price Man United paid for dropping superstar Cristiano Ronaldo, and all the thrills and spills on 2 wheels. Welcome back. The Tigers loom as major players in the upcoming trade period, which officially kicks off tomorrow. Laura Spurway is live with the details ahead of day one. And Laura, there's some interesting moves in the works.
Macca, the clubs have been circling, and tomorrow the wheeling and dealing begins. A few to keep an eye on. Adam Chera wants to get to Carlton, but there'll be some back and forth with Freo over the pick they get in return. Jordan Clark is still weighing up his future at Geelong. Mason Cox is out of contract at the Pies, and there's no guarantee of a new deal there. Patrick Lipinski should get to Collingwood from the Dogs, and Callum Coleman-Jones will get his trade to North Melbourne this week. Robbie Tarrant, he's banking on a move to Richmond. And after a lacklustre season, the Tigers are hoping to capitalise in the draft with their first top 10 pick in 9 years.
3 flags in 4 years, and now the Tigers are primed to pounce in this year's draft.
When we've had a year that we've fallen down a little bit through various reasons, it's a good position to be in, to be well equipped with a lot of picks.
Arguably the strongest draft hand in the league this year, it gives Richmond a range of options heading into the trade period. They've got 7 picks, including 2 in the first round and 3 in the second. North Melbourne likely to give up pick 40 for the departing Callum Coleman-Jones.
We'd love him to stay. We understand the reality of wanting to play games, so we'll work through that in the next week.
Tigers coach Damien Hardwick knows the opportunity this year presents.
He has a good understanding of what he needs to play the type of footy. It's the first time we've had a top 10 pick since 2012, which was Nick Flostone, who's turned out to be a pretty good player for us.
And they could snare tall defender Josh Gibcus with their first pick, one of the best key position players on offer.
My weapon probably would be my intercept marking and my vertical jump.
He's 195 centimetres. Not as big as Harris Andrews, but he plays a lot like him.
He's among a host of Vic Country players vying for attention, including small forward Josh Rochelle, who gave up an A-League contract to pursue footy.
Football is all about team success and everyone else, and I always kind of had that passion for football a lot more, I think.
He's got some spring and power about him. He jumps in front of packs, a bit like Cody Waitman.
The Metro Draft Combine will likely be held next Sunday after the first week of the trade frenzy. Laura Spurway, 7 News.
The stage is set for a thrilling finish as Australia goes all out for an unlikely victory on the final day of the one-off test against India. Captain Meg Lanning boldly declared the Aussie first innings, trailing by 136 runs. Elise Perry dug in as her teammates crumbled around her, notching a third half century in 9 matches.
And brought up with a boundary. She is a test match run scoring machine. Elise Perry.
Well, she's a superstar, and it's been revealed Carlton made an informal approach to try and lure Perry into the world of AFLW. Blues women's coach Daniel Harford sat down with Perry around 2019 for a brief chat about a role at Princes Park, which could have seen her pull on the boots, but it never eventuated. The Rugby League Grand Final will go ahead in Brisbane tonight after Queensland recorded no community cases today. Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk says she plans to attend, but is urging all fans to wear masks while seated. Capacity for the game has been reduced to 75%. It'll take a lot more than Cristiano Ronaldo to lift Manchester United to the Premier League title. He was benched for the home clash against Everton. United still led 1-0 heading into the second half before a big lapse.
Could switch it for Andros Townsend to equalise. Razor sharp.
And he even borrowed Ronaldo's trademark celebration. Everton thought they'd won it, but their dancing was premature as the match finished 1-1. Chelsea is 2 points clear on top after a 3-1 win over Southampton. Female cyclists got to experience the infamous Hell of the North for the first time. Bad crashes are inevitable in the Paris-Roubaix Classic. Wet and muddy conditions made the series of cobblestone sections even harder to navigate. England's Lizzie Deignan rode into the record books.
As every fan who's watching this is also making history. It's proving that there's appetite for women's cycling.
Deignan gets $2,500, while the winner of tonight's men's race received $48,000 in prize money. However, her team's major sponsor says it'll make up the difference. And there were also plenty of crashes at the Circuit of Americas in Texas. Several riders had already labelled the track unsafe before qualifying, seemingly with good reason.
It just all got horribly loose, wasn't it, coming through turn number 9.
Aussie Jack Miller was fastest in practice but could only qualify 10th for the MotoGP race. Francesco Bagnaia is on the pole for the 3rd time in a row. Mike, that is all for sport. A quick reminder, the Aussie girls looking to pull a rabbit out of the hat on the Gold Coast. All the final 2 sessions of that test match live on 7 Mate tonight.
Yeah, that was a brave declaration. Thanks, Macca. Melina is next with the forecast, and Mel, it's looking like a wet week ahead.
It is, Mike. We'll have wave after wave of wet weather right through until next weekend. I'll have all of those details right after the break. The first half of the day was stunning, but that has now turned to showers. The city made it to a top of 22 degrees, outside now sitting on 17. We have a series of fronts and troughs sweeping through over the next few days. The first trough will clear the east on Monday morning with a cold front following, so we can expect some strong and gusty winds tomorrow and on Tuesday. We are also expecting some decent rainfalls of between 20 and 50 millimetres on Monday and Tuesday.
say these areas are on flood watch. There are already a number of rivers which have had minor flooding, and there is a minor flood warning in place. So in Victoria tomorrow, we'll see scattered showers over in the east, clear by sunrise. Then we have showers in the west, extending to central parts by midday, reaching the east in the early afternoon. We could see some snowfalls on the Alps. Thunderstorms are possible from the late morning, and it'll be a cool to cold and mostly cloudy day. It'll also be gusty out there, and we can expect damaging winds over these parts from Monday afternoon. We're most likely to see showers over the suburbs from the late morning, and there's the chance of an afternoon thunderstorm as well. Gusty winds are expected here overnight. Temperatures are cooler with tops in the mid-teens. Showers in the city tomorrow, 10 overnight before a top of 16 degrees. We'll have just brief pockets of sunshine over the next few days in between waves of wet weather. Showers on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. Friday looks like our only dry day before a couple more showers next weekend, Mike.
Showers and showers. Thanks, Mel. And that's 7 News. We'll have updates throughout the evening. For now, from the 7 News team, have a good night.